Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Foundations Live. I'm Paul Smith from Foundations, and good to see you all for our first Foundations Live of 2025. Right, on to our award winners, and first up, we've got who we got first up? We've got Chris Park, who's the manager of Lancaster Home Improvement Agency.
Foundations Live.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. What's happened to my background? There we go.
Pleasure.
There we go. That's better. That's better. So, yeah, Lancaster are a very kind of frequent visitor to the awards, and this year it was the kind of won the award for your hospital discharge service, which very 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 speedy. I think certainly looking at the entry, you kind of assisting people to return home very quickly, or if they've already returned home, to keep them there rather than bouncing back into hospital. So can you tell us about how that came about, Chris?
Yeah. Afternoon, everybody. It was back in January 2023. We were approached by Lancashire County Council to take part in a pilot project aimed at providing solutions to housing-related issues that prevented patients from being discharged from hospital in a timely fashion. They created a memorandum of understanding. This project was wheeled out to all the different districts in Lancashire as well. So it's probably quite difficult for the county council to come up with something that fits everyone's organisation. So subsequently, it was a bit of a test of concept. They gave us the idea of what they wanted and gave us some guidelines to start off with, and allowed us a bit of freedom to move the goalposts and work out how things are best suited to our district and organisation. So yeah, that was January 2023. We set about, under their advice, positioning ourselves within county council social services, and the social services department deal with a lot of the discharge process at the end of a patient's journey. So we embedded ourselves in that office there, got to know the staff, tried to drum up demand and essentially learn what the discharge process was and who the stakeholders were. And from there on, it developed, and we managed to look at other benefits and different people to approach and different teams to try and embed ourselves in, to try and speed this process up.
So, I mean, if somebody's in hospital and kind of needs to return home, what's the process then? How do you support them?
Well, the process is supposed to be that in the acute trust or your local hospital, that the staff on the ward should try and pick up some information about the patient's housing situation. They do have a process in place to deal with people who are potentially homeless, so that wouldn't go to us. In essence, there is a process already in place that goes direct to homeless teams. It's called the duty to refer to the homeless. The discharge coordinators then pick up the patient from that point, and if they've got some sort of housing related issue, historically they've tried to get it resolved themselves. Very difficult for hospital staff who've juggling a million and one things and don't have the expertise of maybe a home improvement agency has. So they then tend to pass that on to social services, who then, when the patient's approaching being ready for discharge, they've highlighted some of the housing issues, and the social worker has historically tried to get assistance from that. So we were picking those patients up at that point, and we gradually realised that it'd be far better to get up the food chain and get to the patient earlier in the process. So we moved our positioning into the actual acute trust, got to know the complex case managers, the discharge coordinators, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, to try and see if we can intervene, way before the discharge date. And it was really successful, to be honest. We sort of increased the number of people we were reaching by about fourfold
Yeah.
after about 12 months in the project. So yeah, it was really, really encouraging.
Yeah, I suppose kind of time is of the essence, isn't it, with these sort of cases? I was kind of interested in the kind of video assessments that you do and how they're how successful they've been.
Yeah, we've been trying to push them with the occupational therapists. That really there's a big benefit to that with regards to what's known as a home first visit. For those who don't know what that is, basically it's when a patient's ready to be discharged, the hospital staff can arrange a home first visit where an occupational therapist will accompany the patient back home to check out the environment, to make sure that they can live independently or live with a care package immediately upon discharge. And it's quite common for the OTs to pick up on housing related problems that prevent safe discharge. And historically, they would pop that patient back in the ambulance and take them back to a hospital bed in the acute trust, which has been saved for 2 hours until the home first visit has been completed. So we try to encourage the staff to maybe give us a call. We set up an emergency number for them to call us, which is a hunt group number. It basically rings everyone in our home improvement agency until one of us picks up, and that member of staff will try and coordinate some immediate action to try and prevent that failed discharge and the patient going back to hospital. And one of the things we tried to encourage the OTs to do was to use their smartphone. If there was an opportunity to have a look at some damp and mold or some sort of safety issue, try and encourage them to use the smartphone to do a bit of a video call on either Teams or Zoom or WhatsApp, where someone with, say, for example, a technical officer can do that virtually, have a look at it virtually for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of started as a pilot. So what's the future for it now, Chris? Is it kind of being mainstreamed? What do you hope
It's
for?
funding. It's still early days. I think it's got a very high ceiling of how effective it could be. We've initially been given limited funding. That equated to 40k for 18-month project. So it enabled us to take on a new member of staff. But that new member of staff, it was virtually impossible to find a new member of staff that could tick all the boxes to make it the most effective position possible, which could be technical expertise, knowledge of the discharge process, and so on and so forth, and also connections to other services and stakeholders. So we are in discussions with County Council about they extended the project by another 6 months. They want to extend it further, but there's also political shake-ups going on at the moment, government white papers and whatnot that are probably affecting funding streams. So we're pushing things and pushing things, and going to the NHS as well. And everyone seems very positive by it, and I'm sure something will come of it. It's just a bit uncertain.
Okay. I mean, you've been at various awards ceremonies of the past few years. What's kind of the reaction back in Lancaster and kind of amongst members and kind of senior managers? Are they kind of chuffed?
Yeah, very chuffed. Yeah, we the members rate their home improvement agency very highly. I bumped into one of the councillors the other day, and she'd heard of the hospital discharge project, and also like the affordable warmth that we do. So yeah, really positive. It's nice to be in a council service where there's not a great deal of complaints, really, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand you had your kind of Christmas party on kind of the evening of the awards. So was that kind of extra special taking the trophy back with you?
Yeah, that's the main reason we enter the awards, is to combine the Christmas party.
Fair enough.
But no, seriously, it's a good opportunity
Yeah.
to get the team together and for a bit of a morale boost. And yeah, we obviously had a couple of free drinks at the ceremony put on by yourselves, which is good. And then
Yeah.
train back to Lancaster and out for a bite to eat, and then a pub
Yes.
quiz.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I think it's yeah, I think it's kind of really good for the team, isn't it? When you can celebrate a win like that. So
It is.
yeah, you
It
go
is.
very well timed. You go very well timed this year.
Yeah.
Great. So what's next, Chris? What's your next award entry going to be? Do you think, or do you want to keep that under your hat just in case anybody who's watching might want to? Um,
Yeah, we'll see how the year goes first, funding and all that all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we've got irons in a few different fires, so yeah, we'll see how successful some things are.
great. Well, congratulations on the award, Chris. Thanks for joining us today, and yeah, I'm sure I'll see you at a roadshow or another event soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Paul.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Foundations Live.
Right, so that was Chris from Lancaster, and now going to welcome. We've got two representatives from Eastlight Community Housing who are going to talk about their entry for Social Housing Adaptations Team of the Year.
Foundations Live.
So good to welcome Mel and Deborah from Eastlight Community Homes. Good afternoon to you both, and congratulations on winning the Social Housing Home Adaptation Service of the Year. I mean, I think certainly reading through your entry, the judges were kind of very impressed with some of the things you're doing. I think probably quite a different approach to other housing associations. So where does that come from? And is that from yourselves, or that from kind of chief exec and board members, or where does that kind of ethos come from?
I think really it stemmed from a great deal of ambition when we merged from two smaller housing associations to become a much bigger Eastlight back in 2020, and it was very much around Colne Housing had one way of doing things, and Greenfields had a really quite bells and whistles approach to it, with that they had their own OT, own OT service. So we sort of merged the best bits from both services, and it created this unique service, which is what we've developed today, really.
Okay, so I think it was certainly quite some unique elements to it. So what kind of the bits are you most proud of, do you think, in terms of the way you deliver the service?
Well, I think we're really proud of the fact that we can turn around from either self-referral or referral in from a third party to get an OT visit within 3 weeks. And I mean, we make the referral within 24 hours, basically, of it coming into us. And then the OT that we're using at the moment turns that into an appointment within 7 days. And then the visit and the report come back to us within 3 weeks. And I think that really quick turnaround is what helps our customers the most.
Yeah.
You know, they if they go via adult social care, they could be looking at upwards of 6 months for even an appointment.
So in terms of the I think you're mostly based in Essex, aren't you? So in terms of the kind of district councils you work with, they're kind of happy to accept your OT's kind of recommendations in terms of DFG funding. So they don't particularly, social care don't necessarily get involved in those cases.
The majority of them do.
Yeah.
The majority of them do, but not all. You know,
Right.
we're dealing with 9 district councils, and they all have their individual quirks. And without naming anybody in particular,
Good.
there are some that like a belt and braces approach. You know, so
Yeah.
they'll take our OT recommendations, but then they'll probably do some checking of their own,
Right.
which is absolutely fine, because really once it's left us, they then have to explain to the customer what the delay is, not
Mm.
us, because we've done our bit.
Yeah.
We've been super speedy and got all the recommendations prepared and processed. We check eligibility, we make sure that the customers understand what the OT has specified. We make sure that that's what they want, and we do all that processing and archiving and keeping really good records. And then
Yeah.
if the district council wants to do some more checks, that's entirely within their gift.
But so in terms of the ones that do kind of accept your kind of OT's recommendations, do they still consult with the county council, or kind of the county council happy that your OT is kind of recommending the kind of the appropriate
As far as
adaptations?
I'm aware, no, they don't go back
Yeah.
to the county council. No, they just have their own DFG pot of money, and if there's money in the pot, then they will go with it. As I say, it's not the majority of district councils that check; it's the minority.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's pretty much accepted, and then they do their own work. Obviously, they
Yeah.
need to means test everything. We don't get involved with that. So
Yeah.
that they'll do all their usual DFG checking, due diligence and what have you, and then hopefully they'll commission the work.
So, one of the things that kind of interested me from you, or perhaps two of the things that interested me particularly from your application, one was that still kind of funding quite a lot towards the adaptations, where kind of a lot of housing associations have taken the view that they won't do that. So it's presumably you kind of still feel that that's important, that you make a contribution towards the adapting of kind of your own stock for your own tenants.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely about that. It's about maintaining our assets, and we are absolutely single-minded and focused about maintaining the quality of our stock, and we do that obviously hand in hand with our property services department.
Hmm.
And we feel it's really important to be able to identify budgets that actually are just enhancing our properties. So if somebody has a level access shower, and it's a family home, that's absolutely fine in our view, because it doesn't cost very much to convert it back into a bathroom should that family move out. But as it is, that level access shower is going to be transformational in the quality of life for our tenants.
Yeah.
So, and over years, we've developed this service so that, we used to have a blanket ban on every first floor shower. There was no level access showers allowed in the first floor. And then we just sort of got our heads together one day and said, this is pretty nonsensical, when the cost, we will be sharing obviously with the DFG, and to put the bath back if the family moves out is negligible in comparison. So let's do a brilliant job of fitting that shower,
Yeah.
and then there won't be any leaks. So, there won't be any issues, because we're using top quality products with top quality workmen, and that was sort of the way we approached it. Really, think customer is sort of like our strap line.
Mm. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. You kind of mentioned the kind of top quality material. So you're not kind of fitting kind of the cheap white plastic grab rails, and you kind of looking to do something that's a bit more kind of long term, sustainable, that kind of future tenants are going to appreciate as well.
Well, we hope that that a lot of the adaptations don't look like a clinical setting,
Yeah.
and we have trialed products which are made from completely different materials like stainless steel and what have you. But I have to say that I think there's work to be done in that whole design area, because our OTs weren't massively impressed with some of the trial ranges that we negotiated in. So I think there's a real gap in the market for stylish, non-clinical looking products, which people won't even notice as an aid.
Yeah.
I personally have a grab rail in my bathroom, and my bathroom is pretty much all black. And so the last thing I wanted was a white grab rail.
Mm.
So I sourced a matte black one, which
Yep.
is perfectly lovely. It does its job. And
Yep.
nobody even notices it, let
Yeah.
alone it looks clinical, because it doesn't. It looks industrial.
Very good. So what else have you got kind of planned for East Light then? Have you got kind of future developments or kind of future things that you want to work on this year?
I think Debs and I would both agree that actually it's overwhelming how many of our referrals come in. I mean, we processed over 800 occupational therapist assessments last year. We're going towards more than that this financial year. Plus, we have well over 200 referrals from external OTs. So if you think of our stock is about 14,500 at the moment, that's a heck of a lot of our customers needing
Yes.
help.
Yeah.
So we can only see that as increasing. And so we need to be very much more budget savvy. Otherwise, we're going to be not able to help all the people that ask us for help, and that would be the worst thing possible. So I think it's down to our managers to make sure that they can squeeze every penny out of the budgets, whilst we still obviously want to support our district councils with supplementing on the DFGs, because 30 grand doesn't go very far, does it? And there has to be quite creative financing if for instance a child needs an additional bedroom, tagging on the back of one of our properties. 30k is not going to do it anymore. So it's a real challenge, I think. But one thing that we're bringing in, have we just bought it in, Debs? Have we've raised the minor works level? So minor works has been £1,000 for 16 years, I think, and we've just doubled it. So our minor works budget is now £2,000. So we can do a bit more without having to send it off for a DFG, and we're hoping that our partners appreciate that.
I mean, I think quite a lot of the other district councils watching would love to have you in their area. So in terms of I suppose in terms of why you applied for the award, then what was your kind of impetus to kind of put the nomination in?
Well, I have to say it sort of came from a colleague of yours. He was at a regional presentation and was independently approached by a practitioner and a tenant, who both said to them, oh, you really ought to look at East Light's A&A service because it's really good. Blushes. And so he contacted us. I was nominated out of the team to speak, so I had a meeting on Zoom with him, and then he said he dropped in at the end of the conversation. Oh, did you know about Foundation's Healthy Housing Awards? And I had to admit that we didn't. So he encouraged us, and so we applied. And within East Light, we're a very small, quiet service, very, very self-contained. And when we talked to our manager Gary about it, we just thought, well, it'd be nice to sort of be in the mix with all of our colleagues across the country, and it might raise our profile a little. And if we win, it'll be the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. So we were very surprised that we won.
Yeah. So Gary and the other kind of managers and board members, are they kind of chuffed as well that you got this recognition?
they're really happy. Yeah. Debs went to the ceremony, and she was frantically texting, the great and the good. And then as soon as I heard, I was texting the great and the good, because I was unfortunately not able to attend. And we got some really, really positive feedback. And then since then, we've been featured on the intranet, so our colleagues got to know about it. And then also we've been featured on our LinkedIn page, which again got some lovely comments. And we both received really nice messages from the chief exec. So it's good.
Excellent. Yeah, I think yes, certainly kind of from myself and the judges, we felt it was kind of really excellent entry, and highlighted some really good practice. And I think the Housing Ombudsman is about to release a report on severe maladministration around home adaptations in the social housing sector. So it's kind of really good to have an example from yourselves of how to do it well, compared to I think there are going to be some housing associations that don't do it quite so well are going to be kind of highlighting that report very shortly. So thank you, thank you both for joining us this afternoon. And it's certainly been great to have that kind of good practice that, as with all the kind of award winners, we're going to look to convert them into case studies so that we can kind of share them for other people in the future as well. So thank you for joining me this afternoon, and massive congratulations on the win.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Foundations Live.
Right, so moving on, next we've got We Care home improvements from I suppose kind of southwest, initially from Bristol, and I welcome Rob Herdswell.
Foundations Live.
Hi Rob, good to see you.
Hey Paul, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Congratulations on, I suppose, reclaiming the crown as Home Improvement Agency of the Year. one that kind of We Care have won in the past. Must be chuffed to kind of get the crown back. I've kind of recently kind of taken over the running of the organisation.
Yeah, no, that's right. We're we have won it a couple of times, haven't we? But I've only been here about a year, so none of it under me. So it's nice to win, nice to maintain that and not hold up the previous standards, maybe.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I suppose one of the things from your common nomination was just kind of the breadth of services that you offer across quite a broad geographic region. Can you just give us I suppose, kind of a flavour of the sort of things you're involved with?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the region, we operate across the southwest, I guess, but extending northwards a bit. Primarily at the moment in Gloucestershire, Bristol, and Bath and North East Somerset. We also provide services across the region to other local authority areas, but not so extensively. It's hard to summarise neatly what we do.
That's why I asked you to do it rather than
I'll give it a go. But I kind of think of it as two. Well, we kind of think of it in two main parts. So one is hospital discharge, helping people get home from hospital. The other part is independent living. So regardless of hospital, but remaining living in your home of your choice comfortably. So split between those two kind of needs, but we offer all of our services across both those types, if you like. And then we offer, so how do we categorize what we offer? But we offer some pretty typical, probably handy person services in both those areas. So minor adaptations, grab rails, that type of stuff. We deliver DFGs across some of our regions. We run a kind of tech. We have a technical capability, surveyors backed up by caseworkers to run the projects, whether it's hospital discharge or DFG, but to kind of project manage and look after the often vulnerable people who we're supporting. We have an in-house an in-house team who deliver some of these larger adaptations directly ourselves, so kitchen and bathroom adaptations typically, and then we have a couple of services. So I kind of think of that as the kind of handy person building type physical type capability, but we run a couple of services that are a bit different, or I think of them a bit differently. One is called Housing Options, which I don't know if that's a standard term for it across the country, but supporting people whose home may have become insufficient for them, or they're living in the wrong house for their needs now, and the best option for them is to move, but they might struggle with engaging with that process or knowing how to go about it, and literally for some people it's really intimidating, or they don't know how to connect with an estate agent and get the process going. So we offer a service to support through that process from start to finish. That doesn't always end up with a home move. It might be that after going through that process, the realization is that an adaptation to the home might be the best option for the individual. And then the other thing, which we call Making Space, is a service that supports people with hoarding challenges, and does it it's effectively a mental health support service from the way that we run it, which I believe is the right way to run it. There's I've seen a statistic. I don't know. I can believe that this is believable, but it's quite impactful. It said 100% of forced clearances for people experiencing hoarding challenges. 100% of forced clearances fail to solve the problem. So I think that says all you need to know, really, that it does need to be run as a kind of therapeutic counsellor-led service, with clearance as the desired outcome, but not the starting point. And so we run that, and we support people across all tenures of housing with that, with a kind of patchwork of funding from different places. And I think that's probably it. That's the neatest articulation I can give. I can probably work on that.
Yeah, very broad range. So in terms of the support for people to move, because I think through our charitable arm, kind of before your time, we did fund the pilot, helped fund some of the pilot of that. So and I've certainly kind of referenced when the Older Persons Housing Task Force came out last year, that I thought we kind of thought for some time that actually it's the practical and emotional support that people need to move, not necessarily. I don't think it's kind of the option of types of housing, or kind of the pull of extra care or whatever. It's kind of that, getting stuff out the loft, sorting out estate agents, sorting out moving firms that actually puts people off. Is that what you're kind of finding when you do support people to move?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's it can be as well people who have been in their home for a long time, and the thought of leaving it is quite a difficult one. So yeah, I think you said it, but the emotional support and the gentle steps along the journey to kind of realizing that, like I say, either a change of home environment is going to help them in the stage of life they're at, or maybe an adaptation is the outcome of it. So we go into it without assuming that a home move is the right outcome, and then see where we go. But absolutely, the emotional support is a significant part of it.
Okay, and I suppose kind of one of the key parts of the Older Persons Housing Task Force was kind of building more retirement housing. If you're kind of supporting people to move, is that where they're looking to move, or are they looking to move more into perhaps a smaller mainstream property, or a bungalow? What's your kind of experience with that?
Yeah, it's a complete mix, to be honest. It's some people within social housing, and needing to stay within social housing, but needing something that is more suitable. We do get some privates who, typically you can think that they're moving from a 2-story property to a bungalow. and then into retirement housing as well.
Yeah. Okay. It's quite a mix. So so for the team, I know some of them will have been kind of part of the awards before. It's gone down well with the team, kind of being HIA of the year again.
gone down really well.
Yeah.
As I think lots of home improvement agencies are feeling the challenges of local authority funding and other challenges of funding. So it's not smooth sailing at the moment. So some good news is always welcome.
Yeah.
I wasn't, as you said at the beginning, I'm pretty new to this, so I didn't have a feel for how well known the awards are. And I thought, I'll probably drop out a few emails to our commissioners and mention it to them. I didn't need to do that before I did anything. Within 24 hours, I'd had a whole load of congratulatory emails. So excellent. I think it's in the sector we work in, at least it's really well recognised and understood, and people are aware of it and recognise what it is. So yeah, it was great.
So what's next for Waycare, Rob? Have you got more different projects or kind of more of the same, but perhaps over a wider area? What do you kind of thoughts in terms of the future?
Yeah, more. I think actually what we need to do is more of the same, and but trying to advocate with the local authorities we work with, but also the neighbouring local authorities for the benefit of some of these services. So the hoarding support, there's not many local authorities, not in our patch at least, there's not many local authorities who are funding that. But actually where we are doing it, we're seeing the benefits and the cost saving. Actually, that's not what's driving us, but the cost saving for social landlords and local authorities overall. There's a significant cost saving. Again, I think. Sorry, I'll come back to your question in a second, but I saw a stat that said on average it's an undealt with hoarding case on average costs a social housing landlord £45,000 by the time they've worked through all the problems it can cause. So we want to advocate for the benefits of some of these services, and we want to make our services more available to self-funders, and I think there's a real need for that. But historically, we've kind of focused on what can we achieve with the local authority funding.
Yeah. Have you had much luck with kind of integrated commissioning boards and kind of health funding at this stage, or is that kind of a work in progress?
Some of our, I'd say yes, we have had some success because some of our funding does flow from health. It's hard to penetrate and find the right people within the health system who are making those final decisions, or at least in our ICP, it's proving hard. But yeah, we do get a combination from our local authority and from the health system.
Great. Well, thank you, Rob. Congratulations again on reclaiming the crown as HIA of the year.
Lovely. Thanks, Paul.
Right. Thank you.
Foundations Live.
Right, and our last guest of today is actually somebody that I recorded an interview with a couple of days ago. So I'm not about to get changed. This is me last week. So I was interviewing David Owens, who was the final chair of the specialist section of housing for the Royal College of OTs. Good afternoon, is David Owen, who has been the final chair of the specialist section for the specialist section of housing at the Royal College of OTs. And one of our awards was to kind of recognise the work that the specialist section have done. So welcome, David. I know you're the kind of chair of the specialist section, but there must be lots of other people that are involved and that we should recognise as part of this award. Who else should we thank?
There's been many. There's been many people that have had a huge amount of influence in working with the specialist section over what, the 30 years that it was in existence. I think probably the last chair that I should thank is Jill Owen John, who sadly passed away in 2022. But she was had been there for a long time, and kind of as the outset, from the outset of the specialist section, I think more or less when it was founded in the late 1990s. But there are a number of figures. I mean, Kate Sheehan is one, again, who's been really influential and has been working with the specialist section for a long time. Rachel Russell. Rachel Russell, who for a long time was the education lead and kind of the link with higher education when I rolled at Salford and some of the various other places that she worked during that time. And we've got Jaquel Runnels, who's been a huge influence in inclusive and accessible design. She's worked at Wandsworth, but she's been a huge influence in terms of influence and policy in England, especially around changes to Part M of the building regulations. And she's also, her and Marnie Walker have also updated the Inclusive Housing Design Guide. So they worked alongside Habenteg on the most recent publication, which was published back in, I want to say September time or October last year, and also the previous version, which was published back in about 2020, I think. And we've also got Jill Pritchard from Scotland, who's been incredibly influential, and we've had a number of regional reps from across the country. We've had Celia Talamo, for example, Sasha Kaku, who was representative for the Southeast for a number of years. She's based in Southampton. And we've got individuals like Michelle Finney, who've been working with the North, and I've forgotten Mary Putnam, who's was also the treasurer for a number of years. And we've got some sort of big figures like Mary Stobie, who retired a number of years ago. My first role in the section was taken over from her as the newsletter editor back in 2019. So it feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
But you know, there are a huge number of people who've had significant impact on the special section and kind of driving it forward, and the successes that it had.
So I suppose kind of talking about successes, what for you are the kind of main successes, do you think, that the specialist section has achieved over its lifespan?
I think its ability to work across multiple sectors. I mean, the housing sector, the housing specialist section had a lot of links with working across lots of different sectors, because didn't just work with occupational therapists. We were working with building surveyors, politicians, kind of making the influence around the case for accessible and adaptable housing. So I think that's probably the biggest success, is the influence that we've been able to wield.
Yes, yeah.
And recognition that actually the housing is quite critical, is incredibly key to supporting people to be independent and actually live the lives that they want. That actually housing is kind of the key. Well, it's one of the keystones of people's lives. If you've got safe, suitable accommodation, you can kind of build your life on that. And, you've got somewhere safe from the world that you can carry on with your daily routines, that, then you can start to rebuild your life from that. Yes,
yeah. And I think it must have helped and supported hundreds of OTs in practice over the years as well, which is quite a legacy absolutely. As well.
I mean, perhaps one of the biggest successes was the Gen Home project. So it's kind of collating all the, trying to bring together as much of the research and as much of the evidence base as possible to argue for why we need accessible and adaptable accommodation.
Yes, it's excellent legacy to leave. So from your personal perspective, David, what have been your kind of highlights, or what have you enjoyed the most being involved in?
I think for me, it's been the conferences and the face-to-face study days, where you're actually able to get to know people, build up networks, and actually learn and share practice from lots of different areas. I mean, we did, prior to the pandemic, we were running quite a few face-to-face sessions, but obviously, everybody knows, we all kind of went digital and online during the pandemic, and we kind of tried to continue that with webinar series. I mean, our 2020 conference was our first online conference, and the first conference we offered to members for free. and we also replicated that success of the 2020 conference in 2021. I mean, those were pretty difficult to organize, and but they did go off quite successfully, and it was great to actually be back face to face in 2022 when we joined in London. And I think our conference in April of, I was going to say 24 this year, but it's last year. The final conference that we held was actually, I think, probably one of the best. It covered quite a significant range of different topics that were really kind of, I can't think of the word, that were kind of really hot at the time. So it looked at things like FND and the impact of conditions and how trying to understand some of those things that are not as routine as we would normally see. So it's kind of extending beyond the traditional physical, or perhaps the more traditional physical disabilities that we've been accustomed to working with over the years, and kind of moving towards that, the issues around sort of neurodiversity, the impact that psychological health has on your home, and how both can impact on each other.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I was there in Coventry, so yeah, it was an excellent couple of days. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on kind of the future of occupational therapy, either I suppose in terms of adaptations or broader, and kind of housing in particular? How do you think things will evolve and adapt going forwards?
Well, I hope the message has landed with commissioners that occupational therapy is key to actually delivering accessible and adaptable accommodation for individuals. I mean, there has been a number of RCT have run a couple of, have launched a workforce strategy for all of the UK home nations. I think the England strategy was the most recent. Wales have gone ahead and launched one in Scotland, and I think Northern Ireland strategy might have been launched, but they were discussing that actually that housing is a keystone. It's a key area for practitioners, because actually if we don't get that right, how can we then get supporting people in other aspects of their life right? So if we can get their accommodation right, if we can reduce the impact of disability and the effect that it has on somebody, whether it's a physical disability or whether it's a psychological one, then actually we can give that person the resource to go off and do the things that they need and want to do elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was some work going on in Manchester and a few other local authorities where they kind of they were running some schemes about housing first. So where actually housing was provided to individuals for various reasons on an unconditional basis. So, and then they were working with that individual to help them resolve some of the other issues that they were dealing with, but knowing that the property that they were in or the place they were staying was safe and secure, and it wasn't dependent on them meeting other particular objectives, which I think is a really fresh approach to it. Yeah,
absolutely. I suppose just you've obviously worked in England before, and now you're kind of working in Wales again. What's your kind of perspective on kind of the difference between what happens in Wales and what happens in England?
I think things in England are slightly clearer in terms of there's one source of funding, which is the DFG. Things in Wales are a little less clear, because some of the funding it's more tenure dependent, and some things independently from. So, for example, disabled facilities grants, for example, are generally administered for private properties, so whether you own it or rent it. And then you've got, for sort of most social landlords, they have access to a physical adaptation grant. So the same rules sort of apply, but there's no means test for physical adaptation grant, whereas the means test for DFG is dependent on which local authority you live in. Right. Because as I'm sure you're probably way back in, must have been late 23. Yeah, back in about 2023, Welsh Government made an announcement that they wanted to remove the means test for what they considered small and medium type adaptations. But it was kind of, they didn't make it a requirement. The local authorities to develop their own sort of approach to it. Okay. Which did leave a bit of, it's kind of left a patchwork with some local authorities going, yeah, well, any works that kind of cost less than say, let's say £15,000, we won't means test you, but if things cost more
Right.
than that, we will. Some
Yeah.
local authorities still maintain the old traditional means test for everything.
Okay.
So it
Yes.
kind of,
Yeah.
it does kind of, yeah. So it's a little,
Yeah.
it's a little messier
Okay.
than perhaps in
Yeah.
England. And obviously there's nobody like foundations to kind of help coordinate that message and make the practice easier and trying to, I suppose, level the playing field across every authority. And the accessible housing standards are slightly different. Because lifetime housing
Right.
still applies rather than stuff from Part M.
Right. Okay. Okay. It's interesting. I mean, we'd love to get involved with Wales, but we'll wait on the invitation.
I mean, the challenges are very similar.
Yeah.
I guess the approach to health and social care is slightly different. There is more, I don't want to say integration, but there is more cooperative work perhaps than you might see in England. That's kind of my perspective on it, that there seemed to be a little less integration in England, and things perhaps weren't as advanced as they were when I left Wales. But now I've come back, there is kind of that tug now between health and social care.
Right.
So there's things the organisations are kind of pulling slightly back because of because of the pressures on resource, which I think is an issue for everybody, really.
Yes, absolutely. There we go. So that was David Owen there, reflecting on his role as the final chair of the specialist section for housing at Arcot, which is now disbanded as they move into kind of a new way of managing their, I suppose, kind of relationship with their members. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to Chris, Mel, Deborah, and Rob for joining us as well, and kind of sharing their thoughts on the road. Sorry, I'm not on the roadshow. I was talking about the roadshows in a minute. On the awards. We will have another National Healthy Housing Awards later in the year. So entries or nominations for that usually open around May time, or open during the summer. And then we hold the ceremony usually in December, so you can link it up with your Christmas party. As I said at the start, we're DFG Champions Roadshows return, visiting Newcastle, Manchester, Nottingham, Plymouth, and London. Rob from We Care Repair or We Care Home Improvements is going to be in Plymouth. So if you want to hear more about the work that We Care Home Improvements do across the Southwest, then come and join us in Plymouth, and you can hear more about it then.